Good morning. Welcome to this live session on how to set up iNav with a F4 flight controller which has a OSD built in. We'll also go one extra hog and set up a GPS during this episode. Now do note this is being recorded live, so I will leave all mistakes in, and as you can see above my head, we've got a live chat which is going along with this version too. Now, if I don't do this as a live version, I will just never get round to it. So this is going to be a little bit ad hoc. It will probably be longer than what's actually needed, and it's definitely not going to be polished, but I do have a cup of coffee here, and we're going to dig in and have a go at this. And the point is, I just want to make the point on this, setting up iNav on one of these flight control boards is dead simple. So let's have a quick slurp. And good morning to everybody who's on with us live. And remember, if you've got any questions or comments, please let us know in the comments section underneath this video if you're watching the recorded version. So good morning to everybody on here. Now, I'm not going to do a massive shout out. So good morning, everybody who is on the live version. Thank you ever so much for joining. Now, those of you which are actually using iNav, I would 100% appreciate any comments which you have on your configuration. If you can do that in the finalized video, so not in the live version, or you can chuck any tips in the live version, but leave it as a comment underneath this video, because that will help other pilots with their experience with iNav. So with that said, let me just move across there. And again, I'm not going to pay much attention to the live chat at the moment. What is iNav? So in short, I'm sure you've heard of Cleanflight, you may have heard of Raceflight, or even Betaflight as well. Now these are just straightforward software which runs on flight control boards. So let me just get this little board up. And by the way, what I'll do on the finished version, I'll put some photographs in the video description for you. And I'm sure you've seen these little boards before. They're just little flight control boards. And the thing is that since the STM32, these flight control boards have come on leaps and bounds, whereas we really did hit the limits with the STM32, and now this is an F4 flight control board. So on this board, I'll give you a very quick tour, and we'll take a look at the Banggood site and go through the pinouts and stuff. Basically, 6 servos or 6 motors are, and I want to make the point right off, and this should have made it at the very beginning, this is for flying wings, this is not for quadcopters. So keep that in the back of your mind. You've got 6 PWM outputs on here. You've got an OSD, which is built in as well, a feature which is normally either an add-on feature if you're using something like a Pixhawk or an Artbird or something like that, and we'll get to price in a moment. We've got squinium pins down the side, and it's all just configured and set up in a Chrome web browser. So let's move on to the next topic, which is price. This little board, okay, I need to bring myself back onto the topic. We were chatting about iNav. Like I said, I need to do this, otherwise I'll never get around to doing it. iNav, Cleanflight, Betaflight, Raceflight. Well, Raceflight is now gone closed source. But in short, iNav is a fork of Cleanflight, and what it's been added is the missing GPS features. The GPS features in Cleanflight do not work. If you just want straightforward stabilization for a flying wing, you can either use iNav or you could use Cleanflight or even Betaflight. They, to all intents and purposes, they do add stabilization, but they do not add any GPS features. And by the way, that's a GPS unit, that's why I'm here dangling it around. So iNav, it has been around for a while. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, if you look back on my YouTube channel, my first interactions with iNav were not good. Okay, the model went straight in the ground, and we are now several months on, many versions on from iNav, and fingers crossed everything now works for iNav version 1.7, and this is me revisiting iNav. So I'm coming back with fresh eyes and new enthusiasm, and both fingers crossed and something else crossed that it all works. Now, why would you be interested in this? Now, getting back to my point, we were chatting about the board. It's simply price. This little board, and I'll put it up on the screen, is $24 right now on Banggood, and the GPS unit, which you'll also need, is $20. Okay, and I've put links to those in the video description. And again, for 100% clarity, they are affiliate links. So if you use either of those links and go on and purchase those products, you will be supporting this YouTube channel. A point which I'd like to make extremely clear because it's often left out of other people's tutorials. So, by the way, if you use affiliate 6 as a coupon code in the checkout, you'll get 6% off as well. Sorry, you can buy them on Banggood, in short. Super cheap, and I will only be doing this tutorial on this board here, and the link to that's in the video description. So this board is $25, which is 20 quid in pounds sterling, and the GPS is $20, so we'll say 15 quid. So for $45 all in, you get stabilization, you get an on-screen display. So if you hook up your video transmitter on there, you'll be able to see the battery voltage, the directions at home, your latitude, your longitude, the mode which you're in, all like lots and lots of cool features which you can turn on and off, I hasten to add. And crucially, you get for me, the big one is return to home. The brown switch. If something goes Pete-tonk, if you're flying an expensive model or even a cheap model around, which you kind of like, and having that little brown switch on your transmitter means that you get your model back for a $45 investment compared to how much kit you put into your model. I think it's fantastic value for money. This is why I'm very interested in iNav, and I'm trying to come back with fresh eyes to take a second look at it. So that's iNav in short. Now, we were chatting about the board, basically lots of pinouts. Now, I need to give you a heads up. I'm going to turn this board around, and I'm going to make the point that this board, and again, I'm using the web camera, this board did not come with the pin headers on there. So you will need moderately good soldering skills to put the pins on there. And also note is that unlike a certain company which I bought a pro version board, an official Omnibus board from, it did actually come with pin headers from Banggood, whereas the other one didn't actually come with any pin headers, nor did it come with any leads. So people complain about clones, but invariably the clones are better kitted out than the official boards. Really frustrating, and apologies for the little rant there, but it really does bug me. So let's move on. What do you need to kind of follow on with this tutorial? In short, you need one of these little boards, which the link to is in the video description. You need to solder on your pin headers, really kind of straightforward. A big tip for you, when you go to put on your pin headers, and again, I'm going to put this up on here, is that if you solder one corner first and then solder the opposite corner down there, that holds the whole rack of pin headers in one place, and then you can go on and solder the rest of them. So you need one of these little boards. You'll also need, and I suggest, and again, I've had really good success with these ones as well, an Neo M8N GPS unit. Now, I have been and modified mine, which that looks really scary, but don't worry, I'll put some photographs once I get time of the setup on here. It does come with some tiny little plugs. In fact, they're here on my desk, which I've been and promptly chopped off because they're meant for, I think, Pixhawk in short, and we want some just servo connectors on the ends. Now, we'll go into more details on the GPS unit, but that's the two components which you need. Now, you also need some other bits and bobs as well. Number one, you need to know about the iNav Wiki. Okay, so I haven't actually put that in the video description, but I will do afterwards. Or just type in iNav Flight Wiki and then into Google and you find it. And you definitely do want to go and have a read of the wiki page so you can set up. So you want again, this is a setup for FlyingWings. So you want to go in there and click on FlyingWing Guide and follow their suggestions through. You'll also need the iNav Configurator, which is a free app for the Chrome web browser. I've got mine sat down there. Really straightforward. Just click install and off you go. I'm going to just put mine to one side. You will also need this tool, and this tool is by far the best tool which I've found for fixing driver issues. If this is the first time you've ever connected a flight control board to your computer before, is that, again, this is I'm assuming you're using Windows. Apologies, no idea on Unix or whether that's a Mac or something else. Is the first time you connect this to your computer, it will take a while to find it, and then unfortunately you'll have the wrong drivers. What you can then use is this little tool here, which will fix the drivers for you. Makes it really simple. Just says board found, updating drivers, job done. Absolutely brilliant, and I've put a link to that in the video description for you. So I am just going to pause a moment to look at your live comments on here. Let's have a quick look. Van goes, I am on my 4 vector and never had a glitch of an issue. I totally agree with you. So the Eagle Tree Vector, for those of you which don't know what the Vector is a fantastic piece of hardware. I actually own 3 of them, but do note they're £175 each. Okay, so we'll say $200, give or take a few cents, you know, we'll say a few cents between friends. $45 compared to $200, this is less than 1/4 of the cost, and you get very similar features. Okay, I say similar because the devil is in the detail. Given a choice, and I want to make this absolutely clear to you, every single day of the week, if I had a choice between one of these and an Eagle Tree Vector, I would choose an Eagle Tree Vector. However, I don't have unlimited funds, and I've already got 3 of them, okay? So this, and again, I'm guessing the same for you. You're tight on cash. This is the much cheaper option, and also why I'm interested in that. And I don't know if you can see how many models I got behind my head, so cost is a big factor for me. I'm guessing cost is a big factor for you as well. Van also, yeah, I've never tried waypoints in the Vector. I have tried waypoints on the Pix Racer with Q ground control. Worked flawlessly. Absolutely amazed, impressed. Oh, and you can do waypoints with this if you use an app for your phone called EZ GUI, which I actually bought in the end. It was only like a quid or two, and I've just reminded myself I need to stick my phone on charge in a minute. So yeah, sorry, apologies for going off topic, but you can see the questions which are going on above my head. Let's have a quick look. There is a note about auto launch with iNav. Frankly, I don't personally see any requirement for any experienced pilot to require auto launch. I think that's a bit of a loftier goal for installing iNav into model airplanes for farmers and third world countries, so they don't need to know how to launch or even control a model. They can just go off and survey their crops, and the model will come back and land. That's not a feature which I'm personally interested in. So yeah, and Aaron, I can see your chat, and again, you can see that above my head. Aaron says, that's why I'm interested in the iNav. We've all got some quad flight controllers lying around. Absolutely. I did try this out on a NAS A32 originally. It just can't keep up, and because these boards have got so cheap now, so that's an F4, not an F1 board in there. It's even got the little pin headers and the OSD built in there as well. Is super cheap. So with that said, that's enough of an introduction to iNav. Let's get busy and go and get this sorted out. So requirements for this, I have an XAR receiver and I'm using SBUS, and yes, I will only be using SBUS. You can also use PPM as well on the same pins. If you're going to be using, if you've only got a receiver which doesn't have SBUS or CPPM, then you will need to get a little converter. I probably should go back and update the video description with a converter, but to be honest, it's always better off using a decent receiver. And again, I've chosen XAR for this one. So that's the first piece of kit which I've got. I've got 2 servos. Again, we're dealing with a FlyingWing, so one's the left one, one's the right one. Straightforward, yeah? Main F4 flight control board, like I said, links in the video description. We also have the GPS sensor. Now, I don't want to go off into too much of a topic on this one, but and I will put a photograph in the video description for you, but it's key that I show you the wiring. So I'm going to not spill my coffee everywhere. Phew, got away with that one. I will need to put that up on the screen. So you will see that I have a yellow and white wires. Okay, those are the two wires, those ones there, which you are most interested in, because they are RX and TX, and that's the two wires which communicates from the board to your GPS unit. The other two wires on there, red and black, are completely bloody obvious because they are positive and negative. Now, you do need to only feed this with 5 volts. Don't wire that up to your battery, otherwise you're going to have magic pixie smoke. Now, the other two wires are of particular interest, but I'm not going to go and cover them in this tutorial, which is that they are the yellow, I need to get the colors right, yellow and blue. Now, those are and let me put those up there, that's those ones there. Those are SDA and SCL. Now, in this GPS unit, we also have a magnometer, aka a compass, and you can also use this as an external compass. Also note, if you're going to do that, you will want to disable the compass on the board if you have one set. And because the compass is mounted on the bottom, you do need to read the Wiki and for the GPS setup, and you will need to set the setting in iNav to turn the magnometer upside down. Otherwise, it thinks south is north and north is south, and you know the drill. Not good. What else have I got set up here? That's basically it. Now, I do have my Tyrannus set next to me.
Welcome to Tyrannus.
The point.
Warning. Switch warning.
Once it's finished chatting, I just want to make the point. I'm going to put this up on the pad, up on the web camera. Okay, that is my channels out. I have aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, and then I've got a couple of switches. I've got SF, SE, which is the top left, and the other switch which I've got is SG. So SF I'm going to use for arming, which is the back right 2-pole switch, and then the 2 triple switches up in the top left and top right hand corners. My 2 favorite switches for using. You do not put any mixing into your transmitter. Okay, that's an important note to make on there. You need raw channel output, and it doesn't, frankly honest, it doesn't matter what order you've got your channels set up in your Tyrannus, is that you can map them accordingly using iNav. Now, I'm not going to cheat on this one. I'm going to start afresh for the install on this. Now, it's going to be a little bit tricky for me, so all I'm going to do, in fact, what I probably should do, is just quickly run through the pin headers. So let's take a look on the Banggood site. Now, really frustratingly, okay, the prints or the silk screen on this board, and again, you won't be able to see it on the web camera, is that all the pins, they've silk screened on the bottom of the board. So on the top of the board, where we've got the little USB socket on the top, which is just up there, okay, that is the top of the board. Okay, keep that in the back of your mind. The reason being is that this is for this board specifically. Other flight controller boards may have the USB on the bottom, and they will have different pinouts. This is why I'm only focusing upon this one. It's got OSD built in. It's pretty damn cheap, to be honest, and it's got all the major things which we would want. Now, I also want to make a heads up. There is a V2 board which has just been and come out. It's on the way to me right now, and the V2 board has a current sensor built in, but it does have a different pinout. Okay, so all pinouts which I'll mention on this one is specific to this board. Now, the point is that they have been and put the silk screen, and what we're looking at right now is actually the bottom of the board, not the top of the board with the pins coming out where I've soldered them in. So everything is reversed. So we're just going to have a quick wander around the pinouts. I'm going to start here at the top, and in fact I'm going to see if I can zoom in a bit so you can see what's going on. In fact, I'm going to turn my head off on here as well, so we can take a closer look. So let me zoom out. That's a little bit better, isn't it? So we have 6 pins at the top. So we have V in, V out. So that's video in. So that's the pin which we connect from our FPV camera. We have video out, which then goes onto your video transmitter. Also make a point, you need a common ground. So if you're using a separate battery or a different circuit for powering your FPV camera or your video transmitter, you do need to bring a ground lead back to one of these 2 pins here. Otherwise, you may end up with some flickering issues or worse on your actual video camera itself. Good morning, everybody who's on the live chat. Apologies, I'm not doing shout outs this morning. I'm just having if I don't do this now, I will never get to it, in short. So, down the left-hand side, this is our PPM outputs 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those will, again, the board will get powered off the 5 volts for that. This top set of pins is very important because the top pin header, ground, 5 volts, and then SBUS or PPM. That's what we're going to be connecting our receiver to. Then going down the right-hand side now, I'm going to skip over a couple of these in short. So the first row, that's for your LED strip, again, really meant for quad pilots. HC, that one did confuse me. Apparently that looks like a RAM port of some form. Don't know. I genuinely don't know on that HC one. But we do have a buzzer plus and minus. If you put a buzzer, and this is an extreme warning for you, I would probably suggest that you do not put a buzzer on your model. And the reason why I'm saying that is inside the buzzer, and let me just get this camera back on, wherever it is, inside the little buzzers is a magnet. That's how the little speaker works. If you have a magnet with a compass right in front of it, it doesn't matter which way you turn it round, it still thinks north is towards the magnet. So go very, very careful if you use a buzzer. And I can tell you about that from first-hand experience. It's not good. So moving back, we've got VOSDs, which I'm assuming, so you've got video OSD, that's the voltage for the OSD, V battery, so go really careful of that one. And we got a load of ground pins in here. And now I mentioned about SCL and SDA. Those are for external components such as the magnometer or compass, which is built into the GPS unit, but do note I won't be setting that one up in part of this tutorial. In fact, for you, I would also suggest you probably don't set that up to begin with. Just make sure your model works and you can enable the compass later on. We do have RSSI. Now that is of interest, the reason being because the X8R does have a separate RSS output pin, which you can then connect to the board. If you're using a different receiver, so for example an L9R, you can also connect that to the RSSI inputs, and again you'll need to enable that in iNav. We've got some grounds, we've got some 5 volts. Now down here, TX6 and RX6 are of explicit interest to you and to us. And the reason why they are of interest to us is because that is where we connect our external GPS unit to those two connectors. Now, I want to give you a heads up. When you go later on, when you go and connect up your GPS unit to iNav and the board, and it's not working, switch those two around. Okay, chances are it's those bottom 2 pins, and if you don't know which one the RX and TX is, which frankly I can't remember off the top of my head, you can't go wrong. There's no polarity with them, so don't worry about you're going to fry the board if you connect them wrong. Just stuff both those pins in, and I just want to clarify they are the yellow and white. Let me just put that back, turn the main camera back on. The pins which we're talking about are the yellow and white wires, which are just, let me turn that round. Those bottom ones which I've just been, come on, focus you. Believe it or not, yellow and white wires down there on the bottom, those are RX and TX. I can't remember which way around they go. Stuff them in one way. If they don't work, you just pull the pin headers back off and turn them back around. And by the way, all I've been and done is just connected up some servo lead connectors on the end. Just solder them up. Oh, and a massive tip for you, when you do that, remember, again, I can tell you from experience, remember to put a bit of heat shrink tube down the wire. So once you've finished, you can put that over the end and then make a really nice, neat job of it. Done that before. Oops. Anyway, we would chatting about the board. That's it. Okay, now also note there are 2 additional PWM channels which get outputted. Now, those are those 4 pins just there on the left, but you can't see them because they've put the silk screen in on the top of the board. Anyway, so you've got ground on the left. Oh, my head's in the way. Let me move that out of the way. So you've got ground here on the left-hand side. Then you've got PWM5, PWM6. So for example, maybe you'd set this board up. So there's our RSS. So that top pin there is our SBUS in. So ground, 5 volts, and SBUS or PPM on that pin there. Channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4. Then we got channel 5, which goes ground and then PWM there. So that's our signal pin, I believe. I haven't tested it. Again, it's ground and PWM. We're not mucking around with 5 volts, so it'll either work or it won't. So you could use PWM 5 and 6. There is an auxiliary pass-through mode which you could set up in iNav. So potentially you could use maybe 5 and 6 for connecting up pan and tilt, for example. Potentially. Not tested it myself, and happy days. So good morning, Sir David of Pinout as well. Right, so you can see the chat going on above my head, or what was going on above my head. So that's enough of the chit chat. We need to get this board connected up. So you will need a little micro USB connector. You know you've got the right one because it will either fit in the USB socket or it won't. And I'm just going to plug that in. Now there is one other thing which you need to be aware of, and let me see if I can find it on a picture here for you, which that's the wrong side, and it's hiding on the opposite side of there. Right, there we go. I'm just going to zoom in on this picture because it's not actually, mine's slightly different to this. So see that there, I'm just circling it with my mouse, okay? On mine, look out for the gold little book. Can you see that little gold thing just up there? Okay, can you see that little gold thing just there? All right, what that is a tiny little push button. And what you need to do is when you connect this to your computer, and again, I'm assuming that you've already installed iNav, okay, on the Chrome configurator, and of course once it opens up, it looks like that. And if you don't know how to get to it, let me just grab a tab. So if you literally, if you open up a new tab, go to apps in the top left, and then choose iNav, and then it will open up. Okay, so let me move that out of the way. Now, when you plug it in, make sure, and you should see a green. In fact, why don't I just plug it in? So
Inactivity alarm.
Shut up, woman. Let me plug that in. There you go. I've just heard a noise. You will see a blue flashing light on there, and a little green light as well. So you've got a green light at the top, and you've got a blue flashing light. That basically means it's working. Happy days. Now you need to unplug it. Okay. What we're going to go and do, we're going to go flash this one from scratch. So let me go and get iNav. So I've got iNav open here. It's kind of like Betaflight. It's kind of like Cleanflight. I'm sure you've been and seen it before. So we're going to go across to the firmware flasher. Have a cheeky little slurp of coffee. Yes, Lauren, I agree with you. Much better than trying to bridge the pads with either solder or a knife or... Goodness me, I've done it before with razor blades before. Yeah, a little push button makes it much easier. So we're going to go down and we're going to choose an Omnibus F4. I'm going to choose the latest version, which again, obviously, do go and check the notes which come with the different versions. I'm choosing version 1.7.0. If you're watching this at a later date, then obviously you're going to have a higher, most likely you're going to have a newer version. That's great. Now, one thing which I have noticed with the Omnibus boards is that do not choose the option full chip arrays, because if you do that, it doesn't actually work at the moment. Okay, so if you've got problems and it's just stuck at the arrays stage, don't panic. Okay, that's just what happens. Now, I need to turn my head off for this next part. Down, so we've chosen the firmware. We've got no boot sequence, flash on connect, load firmware online. Give it a moment. Suddenly the page has got really long and we need to scroll down. There we go. So what I'm now going to go and do is put my fingernail. Let's turn the camera back on. There we go. What I'm going to do is put my fingernail on that little gold button to short it out. That's the boot pin, and then I'm going to plug it in. So for you to be able to see this working, I need to turn my main camera off. But that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just pushing my nail down on that little pin and plugging it into the USB. So I'm going to push that down. And you know that you've done it right because only one of the LEDs, only one of the LEDs loads up or starts to blink. So it's always a bit of a faff. So I think I'm pushing that down. No, I'm not. Really am now. No, didn't do that. So you'll see down at the bottom, it's in red. Down here at the bottom, no response in the bootloader. That's because I didn't push it down hard enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that down on the desk. I'm going to stab it with a pen. Oh yeah, that's, you know when you've pressed it because it makes a little clicky noise. Again, I'm going to be really quiet a mo. If you can hear this, that's the kind of noise which you want to hear from that little pad. So I'm going to plug it in now. There, you'll see that it's gone to DFU mode in the top right hand corner. I've pressed flash firmware at the bottom, and job is classed as a good one. So it's erased and now it's flashing. We're just going to wait for that one to finish. Good morning, Alan, by the way. Good morning, Peter, too. And Lee, have a great day at work. I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here as well. Right, brilliant. I need to get the main camera back on. Right, that's it. It's been flashed. Okay, now I need to turn the chat off for this one. So I'm just going to turn the chat off a moment. You connect to your board. So what we'll now notice in the top right hand corner, it says COM11. We've got the port speed at 115200. We're going to go and click on connect. There we go. Job's a good one. It's been connected. So we wiggle the board around. Happy days. Now I don't know which way the front of the board is. So there's which right. There's the back of the board. Okay, so that's the front. So why I'm doing that, if you look on my screen, I don't know which way around this board goes. So move around like that. And back. So the front of the board is with the USB on the right, okay, which is my right and your left, if that makes sense. So the USB thing is on the right hand side. So when I push that down, okay, if I can turn that around on the screen, the front is going down. Okay, so the front is where the PWM output is, or where you plug in your SBUS. Okay, so that's happy days. We'll get to calibration in a moment. We're just going to have a quick walk around now of the screen. Now, I wonder if I can read. Oh, look at that. Did I just get really small? Brilliant. I hope I just got really much smaller on the screen for you. Right, so I've just moved myself out of the way. Quick rundown of what's going on. The first thing which I'm going to do, I'm going to hit reset settings. Okay, and I'm just going to disconnect and reconnect. Now the reason why I press reset settings, I don't want any of my previous settings interfering with what we've been covered. I'm going to hide the log at the top. Right, we'll get to calibration. In short, we got a pretty picture of what is a quadcopter at the moment. We will change this to a flying wing in a few seconds time. We've got some checks on the right hand side, so the accelerometer and the hardware health is in on there. Yes, I shrunk the host, you can't see the chat above my head at the moment. We've got some tabs along the top. So if we was arms on our desk, okay, we would have an exclamation mark there. We're in fail-safe mode at the moment. Well, funny that, because we haven't connected the receiver. We've got a serial link status, so it's connected to our board. We can see that we've got a gyro, an accelerometer. We don't have a magnometer or a baro, and GPS is red at the moment, and I'm not going to go into the other ones, okay? And we've got a disconnect and a reconnect button in the top left-hand corner. Then down the left-hand side, we have a collection of tabs. We've got presets. We will be using the presets in a few moments' time. And in fact, I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger. There you go. The wife will be impressed. Next, we have the ports tab. That is an extremely important tab for you to know about, and also one which you can screw up. I can tell you that because I've done it several times. Basically, what you need to know about with this little board, okay, is that you do not touch the top line, okay? Never ever touch any settings in there, because if you try enabling serial RX or logging or telemetry on the USB VCP column or row, it stops it working with your computer and you have to reflash it. Absolute ball bag, okay? So go very careful on that one. Configuration, we'll take a look at that one in a few moments' time. Failsafe, we'll also take a look at that as well. PID tuning, I'm going to completely ignore that, okay? Advanced tuning, we'll ignore that as well. Receiver, we need to know when we're twiddling our sticks that the outputs are working. Modes, extremely important, especially for fixed wing. The general consensus for fixed wing models is that you don't use stick arming, instead you use a switch. So you can add a switch, maybe AX or AUX1, set that up to the top. So the back left hand switch when we click it, is that it then arms the board, okay? And then there's a collection of different modes. I'm not going to go into any detail on the modes. That's what the Wiki is for, and I will update the video description with the Wiki as well. Servos. This is an extremely important tab for you, okay? And the reason why it's an extremely important tab for you is that typically PWM output number 1 is for your motor, 2 is for a secondary motor, then 3 and 4 are for your elevon servos, okay? Now, if your elevon servos are moving in the wrong direction, okay, on the right-hand side, so let me just go, so servo, maybe both your servos are pointing in the wrong direction. So you go servo 3 and servo 4, go across to the right-hand side, and then change the rate. Now, we got it set as 100. Scroll down that list and change it to a -100. Press save, which is actually in the bottom right-hand corner underneath my head, and then the servos should be reversed, okay? Happy days. GPS, we will take a look at in a few moments. Again, it won't work because my office is like a nuclear bomb shelter, but we will know if it's working or not by the details going on in here. Motors, I'm not going to cover, and we will be in the command line interface, which sounds really scary, but don't worry, it's all copy and paste. Okay, and I'll even show you where I'm copying and pasting from. So, with that said, let's get going. I've pressed reset settings. Again, I'm just doing that again, and I'm just going to want to disconnect and reconnect it again because I've already had stuff set up on mine. The first thing which I'm going to do is go into presets on the left hand side, and again you'll see that I'm picking up the pace now for this. I'm going to choose a 600mm flying wing. I'm going to click apply, which is down in the bottom right hand corner where my head is, and click save and reboot. Okay, I would strongly suggest that that's what you do. Choose the model which is as nearest as possible to you, to the model which you're flying. Do note, I'm not covering quads. Quads don't interest me. Wings and fixed wing models do. So apologies for quad pilots. This is just for fixed wing models. If you had a general aeroplane, so if you had ailerons, elevator, rudder, then you would have chosen aeroplane general. Okay, do take special note on the PWM outputs if you're not choosing a flying wing. Okay, so we will now go down to the configuration tab. Whereas before we had a quad, so let me just put that quad X, that's what you would have had in there before. We've now got flying wing. Okay, that's what you want to see. So these numbers in that little picture, what that means is 1 and 2 are for motor output. So PWM output number 1, okay, which on this board, okay, on the shorter stack of pins, okay, is the second set of pins down, because remember the first set of pins are for SBUS. Okay, so the second set of pins down is PWM output number 1, like we saw on the silk screening earlier, and then 2 is for a secondary motor, and then the 4th and 5th pins down are PWM outputs 3 and 4. Okay, so PWM output number 3 is for our left wing, looking at the flying wing from the rear, is our left wing, and then PWM 4 output is for our right wing. Very important to note that. Right, let's get back. I need to go to the ports tab. I'm turning off, okay, MWSP for UART 1. And the reason for that is that I'm going to take the SBUS output from the X8R. I'm going to plug it into, let me get this the right way round. Let me go and jam that in there. Yeah, lights come on. And again, I am using my web camera, so it's not going to be, in fact, why don't I just make the, hey, there we go, make it really big, there we go. So you can see what's going on. I've been to put that in, and it's not focusing because it's trying to focus on my face. That's really not coming out very well, but I'm on the top pin of the short set on there. Hopefully that's coming out. So just below the 6 pins on the top for there for the video output. And again, I'll put a photo of the finished version in the video description for you afterwards. Is there, it's just been in focus, it's on the top. So you've got black on the outside, 5 volts in the middle, and then SBUS, just like we covered on the silk screen previously. Now, can I make myself smaller? Can I move? Oh look, I can move myself around. How cool! I didn't even know you could do that. Brilliant. Right, so I plugged that in. The lights on the receiver, jobs are good. So I'm going to turn on serial RX. Like I said, I'm using SBUS on mine. I'm going to go and press save and reboot. While that's doing that, I'm turning on my transmitter.
Switch warning.
She'll chat to us a bit. We now need to go to the configurations tab. So quickly back on the ports tab, you'll see UART1 off for MSP, and I've got serial RX enabled on the right hand side. Let's have a quick look. Just came for the coffee. Good lad, Dave. In fact, I need to turn the chat back on. There you go. You can see the chat's going on in the top of my head. In the top right. So let's go into configuration. I've set mine up for a FlyingWing. Okay. Focusing on the receiver to begin with, one milestone at a time. I've chosen serial-based receiver. Okay, obviously if you're using PPM, do note if you're using FR Sky, then you'll need to invert yours because it's CPPM. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm using SBUS because it's faster. Scroll down, choose SBUS. Oh, and it's also what I've got on my receiver on that. So I've chosen serial-based receiver and serial-based provider SBUS. I'm going to press save and reboot in the bottom left-hand corner. Wait for it to disconnect, it'll reconnect. And then it kicks me out. I don't know, little hidden feature of iNav at the moment, so I need to click connect again in the top right-hand corner. Now I'm going to go down to receiver. Moving my sticks! Yay! Look, it works! There you go, that's just me mashing the sticks around, okay? Now, a little note for you, okay? I'm just going to quickly go around with the sticks. So, throttle, when your stick is down, I'm focusing on that column just there, throttle. Okay, when your stick is down, it should be like 1,000 or so. And when you push it up, the value should increase. With your rudder, which is your yaw, when you move your stick to the left, it should go down. And when you move the stick to the right, it should go up. Now, this sounds really daft. If yours outputs are different, you need to reverse your channels in your transmitter. Okay, so your left should go down, your right, it should increase. Then for your roll, it should increase when you go to the right and decrease when you go to your left. Elevator should go, or pitch, that should go down when you pull back and up when you push forwards. Okay. Also, I've got some other switches which have been enabled. Remember, you saw the setup on my screen. So throttle, well, aux1 is going to be my arm switch. I've got a 3-position switch for aux2. And I've got another 3-position switch for aux3. Brilliant, that's working. In fact, that's the hardest challenge out of all of this, is making that work. And again, if your channels are in the wrong order, that AETR is that you can just change, if you wanted to put throttle at the beginning, you could change that around and put a capital T at the beginning if you wanted to. But mine's working, that's classed as happy days. So let's get back to the configuration now. Quickly scrolling down, so there's our wing. Sensors have been picked up. If you were doing something special with your board alignment, I'm not going to cover that here. You can change your board and sensor alignment if you need to on here. We've been through those settings. We will get to GPS in just a moment. Scrolling back on the right hand side, which is underneath the chat right now. So apologies, I'm going to turn the chat off a moment. Yes, Roddy, I will be put some photos up afterwards. Like I said, if I don't do this live and if I don't do it now, I'll never get round to it. I'm going to enable the motor servos. Okay, now I've got the servo refresh rate set as 50 Hertz. Obviously, if you're using digital servos, you can increase that if you need to. I'm also going to set don't spin the motors when armed. Kind of important for one for me. Minimum throttle, I'm actually going to set mine to 1,000. And maximum throttle, I'm going to set that to 2,000. If it needs full beans, let it have full beans is my my thoughts on that one. Now, that flight controller board does not have a current sensor enabled, but I'm assuming it does have a battery voltage enabled on there, so that's happy days. What else have I need to enable in here as well? Now, I want to enable analog RSSI. I'm not going to show you how to do that in the tutorial. Remember, the XAR has an RSS output pin. You connect that to the correct RSS pin on your board. If you're unsure which pin it is, go back to Banggood and look on the silk screening, and remember that is the bottom of the board, so you need to put it through the bottom. And I'm also going to enable the OSD option, which is down here underneath my head, and I'm going to press save and reboot. Brilliant! We are making outstanding progress. Okay, next thing which we need to do is calibrate this little device. Now, how do you calibrate this? In short, I cannot remember, so let's go and find out. So on your dashboard, if you click on documentation for iNav, we're going to click on that one. It opens up and a new browser. There we go. So we need to go, sensor calibration. This is the most critical part of the setup of your flight control board. Okay, so I will be doing this for my board, which is down here on my desktop. And remember, we need to check the orientation of this board. The reason being, it's not like Betaflight, for example, or Cleanflight, where you just hold it still when you press calibrate. That's not what happens. Okay. Instead, we need to have the board level. We need to have the board inverted. Then with it pointing to its right, then up, then left, and then down, and we're pressing calibrate each time we're doing that. Okay, so that's the order which I'm going to be following. So I'm going to move that off to the right-hand side. I'm going to unplug the receiver to make it a little bit easier.
Telemetry lost.
All right, woman. So I need to work out which way around this board is. So, yeah. So remember, for me, I'm looking at the board right now, and I'm pushing the nose down. Let me turn that round. I'm pushing the nose down, and that's with the PWM outputs or the video OSD thing, like nearer the front of the board. Okay, so the front of the board for me is that front leading edge where that little white plug is. There you go, where that little white plug is, that's the front of the board. Okay, so looking at the Wiki, which I've got on a separate screen, it says accelerometer calibration steps. So step number 1 is hold it still on the board. There we go. So I'm just holding it roughly still on my desk. It's down flat, and I've clicked calibrate accelerometer. Brilliant. That's part 1. Now I'm going to turn the board upside down. As you can see on the picture on there, I'm going to click calibrate accelerometer. It's been in finish. We can see it's been in finish because we've got the little finish notice up there. That's why I press show log normally, so you can see what's going on. Now we need to turn it to the right. So the right was with so that was down, so we need the board on the right. So that's with the white pin underneath pointing to my right. So I'm just going to hold it up roughly still, like so. It doesn't matter on orientation. Hold it there. So that's with the right. Now I need to point that up. So the little white pins underneath are pointing upwards, and you can see my hand shaking there. It's wobbling around a bit. Now I need to point it to the left. So the little white plug on the bottom is pointing to my left. Brilliant. And now we need to point that little white plug down at the bottom and click calibrate accelerometer. Jobs are good and calibrated. Now, how do you know if the calibration has been successful? We scroll right down here and it says point 4. Use CLI to verify that accelerate gain _x. So I'm just going to copy at ACC gain. I'm going to copy that. And now in the iNav configurator, I'm going to type in get space, and then I'm going to paste in, or you could type in ACC gain, press return, and fantastic. Now, if they all said X, Y, and Z, if they say 4096, calibration was not successful. You need to go back and do that again. Follow the steps. Remember, check the orientation on your board itself. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. That's the only thing which you can screw up. So do go and watch that. There is a separate video link here which you can go and watch on YouTube, and again you'll find that on the iNav wiki. Brilliant. Let's go, and because we've been in the command line interface, we need to disconnect and reconnect. So wait for that to reconnect. He says, brilliant, we're back there now. Right, what do we now need to do? We need to connect up our GPS. So I am going to unplug my board. I need to plug in my receiver again. Now I will put a photograph of my pin connections on the in the video description, probably later on today. We're off Slopestyle in a bit, so I won't be able to do this first thing. So let me just get this the right way round. And again, I'm doing this from memory, which by the way is, he's going to check my pinouts. Yeah, that's right. And once I've plugged these in, I will then explain what I've been and done. Now I'm going to stand up. I'm going to make this screen bigger, and hopefully this comes out for you so you get an idea. And don't panic, I will put whatchamacallit on here afterwards. So I'm 99% sure this is going to be correct. I need to get myself in the middle of the camera. You will see that I've got black and red on the going from the down here. That's 5 volt ground and 5 volts, and then I've got on the inside I've got TX and RX. Now, like I said with the TX and RX, they are the yellow and white wires coming out of your compass or GPS unit. Okay, I am going to make a point on this. I'm going to go back to the silk screen on Banggood so that you know which pins you are looking for, and like I said, I will include a photograph of my final pins at the end. So whatever happened to the Banggood website, there it is. Scroll down. Zoom out a bit. Okay, so that's just above my head now. So RX and TX, so TX and RX, okay, those are the yellow and white wires from your GPS unit. You then also need to pick up black and red, which is ground and 5 volts, okay? And notice they are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4th pin up from the bottom is ground, 3rd pin up from the bottom is 5 volts. I did plug it in originally, but why isn't that working? Because I'd actually connected up the ground to 5 volts, and surprisingly, it still works. Happy days. So do go very careful on that. Like I said, I will include some photographs of my pin-ups, how my pins are connected afterwards. Right, let's go and plug that in now. So
telemetry recovered.
That's not a good sign. I plugged that in the right way round. So 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm just checking this myself. So we're going up from the bottom, 1, 2. So the 3rd pin up is 5 volts.
Inactivity alarm.
There's nothing quite doing this stuff live, because this thing was working earlier, and 4th pin up. Oh. Can I connect that off? Pins, and why am I struggling here? I'm looking for a blue light to come on the GPS unit. So maybe stick that on a different set of pins. Maybe there's a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Yeah, 3rd pin up. 1, 2, 3. No. No. There's ground and 5 volts at the top. Let me just get back to the, again, apologies, I'm just plugging the pins in here. So I'm just going to quickly just go and disconnect that and plug that, connect again. You plug that in. I'll tell you what, let's carry on, and we'll assume that's working. Now, to set up the GPS, the thing is that GPS unit is set up for Ublox, so it should just works out. So I'm just keeping an eye on the chat here in the background. Set up GPS, ports tab, dead simple. Ports tab, UART 6, and the reason why we're using UART 6 is because on the pinout, down here at the bottom, TX6 and RX6, that's what the pins which we're using. So UART 6, I'm going to go across, I'm going to enable GPS and set that at 115200. I'm going to press save and reboot. No, it runs on 5 volts. It was working here earlier. I don't think I'm waiting for the little light to come on. I'm not that, well, I haven't plugged it in at the moment, so I'm not that stressed. Like I said, I wired it up wrong earlier. Probably shouldn't do that, really. Anyway, so we go back to the ports tab. We can see that GPS is enabled. Now we need to tell iNav that we've actually connected GPS. So we're going to scroll down this tab. For underneath the GPS section, we're going to enable GPS. So we've turned that on. I'm going to choose Ublox and then auto detect. Okay, which is typically always the best way to do that. We're going to press save and reboot. Jobs are good, and try that again. Now, I want to make the point of this. I'm stuck, so I'm going back to the Banggood page, and we've got ground. Where have we got 5 volts on here? We've actually got it at the top. So let me just try and plug in that in there. No banana. And by the way, I'm looking for a blue light on the top of the doodah, and currently we do not have a blue light on the top of the doodah, which is not very promising. So let's quick go down. We got ground and VBAT on the third one down. Now obviously I should probably be using a multimeter, but I'm kind of winging it at the moment. No blue light at the moment. Scrolling down. Where else do we have 5 volts on here? Yeah, it's definitely that set of pins there, isn't it? So 1, 2, and I'm counting here up from my left hand side. So we're going 1, 2, 3. Pin 3 up should be 5 volts. 1, 2, 3. No. 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 Alright. Basically, it's not working, so it is what it is. I'll find out. I'll get the multimeter out later and check on it. So anyway, how do you know if your GPS is working or not? In short, what you should see is that when you go to your GPS tab here on the left-hand side, again, it wouldn't have worked in my office anyway, is that here on the left-hand side, where you've got HStop, EPH, EPV, update time, errors and stuff like that, if you're seeing numbers and stuff coming up on there, that is classed as happy days. That means your GPS is working. If your GPS is not working, you might have the same issue as which I've just had, which probably plugged it in the wrong ones. Hey ho, it happens. In fact, why don't I, because I know the 5 volts definitely works on the SBUS connector.
Telemetry lost.
There you go, it works! Right. Let me disconnect. Is it just because I'm not powering the board by a remote device? That's what it is. Right. Let me just make sure that's set up. Ports, UART 6, 11520. Let me go into configuration, scrolling down. Ublox detected, happy days. Let me now go in here. That's not working, so what I'm going to quickly do is pull those off. Turn them around, press, and again I'll show you, like I said, I'll put finished photographs on mine at the end, GPS. Again, I'm not going to pick anything up in this office. Put that on there. Yeah, you need it connected up to a back, that's what it is. Put that on the right way round. In fact, let me just go back and check the photographs. And again, I'm recording this live. Like I said, if I don't do this live, then I'm never going to get around to doing it. Matt has found the calls. So RX are actually down here at the bottom, and it's the inside 2 pins. Let me get this right. So it's really bloody hard with this thing being the wrong way round. Right. Sorry. What I'm doing, I've got the board here backwards, and I'm looking at the silk screening on there and realise that I jabbed them in the wrong holes, on the wrong pins. Should genuinely go kind of careful with these things, but it's not the end of the world if you fry it. So, like I said, I will put photographs at the end. Apologies for repeating myself. We will get there in the end. We got a blue right up there. Blue. Move my mouse off the screen at the top. GPS blue. That tells us she's a working. So there we go. Look, can you see H.999? Okay, total messages. That's working. Okay, so let me just show you what I've been undone on mine. What I've done is that I've been, hang on, let's make the screen a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on. There we go. What I've been and done is that I've just been and quickly hijacked 5 volts off the SBUS line because we knew we had 5 volts on there. We know the GPS is working because we've now got a blue light on the nose up there. Happy days, nice and straightforward, yeah. And then down here, okay, I got the brown wire, which is the brown wire is the yellow wire coming out of the GPS, okay, and the white wire is the second one up, and that's going in on the inner pin. Let me just put this on here so you can see what. Come on, focus you. There we go. So that's the pinout switch I've got. Okay, down there on the bottom. The brown wire goes to the yellow wire, the white wire goes to the white wire on the output of the GPS, and we know the GPS is working because we've got a blue light, which is classed as happy days. Brilliant. So GPS is working. 2 more things to cover. OSD and flight modes. Okay, really straightforward. OSD. This board's got an OSD build in it, which I classed as happy days. Now, the one thing which you can screw up, and the only thing which you can screw up with the OSD, is not uploading the fonts. So how do you do that? Let me make myself much smaller. There we go. Sorry, I've just seen the chat on the left-hand side. Go careful where you jab things, Matt. Anyway, coming on to the topic, I've come down into the OSD tab. And then you'll see you've got a pretty little OSD. The one thing which you can screw up, and it's the only thing which you can screw up in the OSD, is that if you forget to upload the fonts. So down here in the bottom right hand corner is a font manager. Click on the font manager, click on default, and then click on upload font. It's uploading a font. That's the only thing which you can screw up with the OSD. Honestly, that's it. Because if you don't upload the fonts, it won't work. And now it's been disconnected and reconnected. When it down to the OSD, brilliant. I'm not going to bore you with the different things on here. What I'm going to just quickly do to set this one up is that if I wanted it very quickly, I hasten to add, I'm going to leave the video format on auto. What I would want is direction to home.
Inactivity alarm.
Shut up, woman. Direction to home, distance to home. That's been added. There we go. And did you see I just moved that around on my screen? If you want the distance to home and the heading indicator or direction to home somewhere else, if you want it on the right hand side of the screen, you just click on the little object and move it around. There's some other options on there. I'll leave you to figure them out yourself. They're really straightforward. Remember, if you want to move them around, you just drag them around like so. There you go. And if you don't like them, then you just disconnect and reconnect. If you do like the layout, you press save in the bottom right hand corner. So that's the OSD. Really, really handy. Personally, I don't like the scroll bars. I would probably turn those off, or artificial horizon at least. So I'd probably turn that off. The last thing which we need to cover is modes, and that's the last thing which I'm going to cover this morning. And there are some CLI settings which we also need to cover in a few moments. What I'm going to do is set that up as auxiliary 1. So when I click this back left hand switch, the two-way switch, is that it's going to arm it. So I'll tell you what, when I plug the SBUS receiver back in.
Welcome to Tyrannus. Switch warning.
Right, can you see that little blue icon just there moving up? So that's off, that's on. Okay, I'm going to press save so I can now potentially arm the board when I use that switch, like so. The default flight mode, I believe, is rate mode. You can, and again, I'm not going to go into all the different flight modes. They're all listed in the iNav Wiki. To be honest, probably what I would set up on mine is Leave that as default. So I'm going to set that auxiliary 2, which is my SE switch on my transmitter. So I'd leave that as pass-through mode, which is about the most important mode which you've got on it besides ARM. Wherever pass-through mode is, I'm sure you can see it and I can't. Where is it? Head free, head and hold, turn assist, pass through. There we go. So auxiliary 2 down at the bottom. There we go. So when my SE switch is down at the bottom, I'm leaving that. So that's pass through. Pass through mode besides ARM is like one of the most important ones on here because that allows you full control of the model. Okay, and that should be your default, especially for launching the model for the first time. You need that set as pass-through mode. So that's my SE switch backwards. Then if I click the switch forwards, is that move that up to the right there, like so, is that it will then go to rate mode because no mode is selected, and then I'll go up to horizon and I'll click save there. Then what you can also do, and again I'm not going to cover it in here, nav return to home, that would be auxiliary, and then I'd put that right on the end over there. So when I click the third switch, which is on the right hand side of my transmitter, that is now being moved nav return to home. Failsafe, again I am trying to pick up the pace here, failsafe, okay, I want the model to return to home and my head is in the way. I've chosen return to home there. Brilliant. Click save and reboot for those settings. The same as like the other one I had a save tab, that one's got a save and reboot. Now there are some settings which you need to be aware of for fixed wing models. So I'm going to show you how I find them and I'll also show you how where you can set them as well. So we've gone to the iNav Wiki, the link is in the app itself. We're going to go and click on Fixed Wing Guide, which was unfortunately below my head. Let me just go back. See on the home page it says Fixed Wing Guide. We're going to click on there. Scroll down, flash newest version of iNav, blah blah blah. It says about the outputs on here. Now there are some settings which you need to be aware of, and where are they? Right, it's telling us that we need to put some settings in here. So I'm going to move that off to one side, and all I'm going to be doing is copying these values off the other screen. Okay, so just do go and read the fixed wing guide. The first two is that it's suggesting that we should set max inclination roll to 600, and then also the pitch to 600 as well. Let's scroll down. What else is it saying in here? Set small angle to 180. That's an important one because if your model's not flat, it won't arm, which is what you would want with a quad. But as far as a model goes, it could be on any old angle. So we need to set that up to 180. So I'm going to choose set small angle equals 180. Press and enter on the keyboard. Let's scroll back up. Let's have a quick look. Then it does go on to mention some other details on here. Now, what I'm going to quickly do, I'm going to, where is it? Where's the CLI settings? I want to go and look at the CLI settings. And there's also something else which I want to point out, which is the GPS and compass setup, which was on the left-hand menu. That, as far as the best of my knowledge, that GPS sensor has a magnometer, but it's mounted on the bottom, thus it's in reverse. Okay, so you do need to turn it upside down, and there's a setting in here called align mag flip, and you need to invert it. So if you're going to be using the magnometer, which you would connect up to the SCL and SCA pins, which are the other two pin wires which come out of your GPS sensor, you would most likely want to flip it upside down. And again, you'll know that it's the wrong way round because north will be the wrong side of the board. If you move the things in tandem, it will be the wrong way up. Okay, obviously you'll need to check which way is north for you in relation to where you're sat. Now there are some additional settings, and it's definitely worth having a nose through these and looking up the fixed wing settings. Now the reason why I'm going in here is because I do not agree with the 10 meters return to home altitude. So I've just done a search for FW. Okay, so minimum throttle for FlyingWing in GPS assisted modes. There's the maximum bank angle. Oh yeah, you do need to change that. So the bank angle and climb angle. Okay, climb angle I'm not that bothered about. It's the bank. So imagine you're flying your FlyingWing, and if you're in stabilized mode and you go to bank, it will stop you at 20 degrees. That means that doing a circuit is about a mile big. Very frustrating. So we're going to go and change that one while we're at it. So we're going to go in here, we're going to type in the set. I've copied that off there. It was at 20. I'm going to change mine to 35 degrees. There we go. Climb angle, right, loiter radius, I'm going to leave that alone. Launch throttle, I'm looking for the return to home value. So I'm just going to RTH, that's not what I want. No. Extra R. Landing speed, climb, return, altitude. There. Nav, RTH, altitude. Now, in extra fixed at least alt modes, defaults to 1. So 1000 is 10 meters. 10 meters is not very big. Most trees which I fly around, in 10 meters means the model's going to fly into a tree. So I'm going to go and change that. I'm going to change mine to 70 meters. So I'm going to type in the CLI set, and then I've copied and pasted the value off there, which was nav underscore RTH underscore altitude. And I'm going to set that from, instead of 10 meters, I'm going to set it to 7,000. And by the way, if you don't know what a value is before you go and change it, if you type in get and then the value, it tells us that the current value is 1000, and it gives us the maximum range as well. So let's go and change that now to 7000 and press enter. Now we need to go and set those settings in our onto our board. So I'm going to type save and press enter. It reboots the device. Done. Well, when it reconnects. There we go. That's all the basics which you need to know. The one thing which you're missing, okay, and I did cover it earlier, but I'm going to make a point on this one right now. Let me just stuff that. That one goes in there, and that's the wrong way round. That's always frustrating, isn't it? Stuff that around in there. Again, I'm just quickly stuffing these two servo wires in so I can show you on the screen what's going on. In fact, I'm going to remove the receiver to make it even more obvious.
Telemetry lost.
There we go. Right, let me make the screen bigger for you. Well, no, before I do that, if I click on the configuration tabs, okay, again, move that out of the way. The pinouts on those boards, the top pins were the SBUS in, okay. Then we've got pins 1, which goes PWM, which goes to your ESC, and notice the white wire or your yellow wire is on the inside of the board, not on the outside. Otherwise, it would be reversed around and it won't work. Okay, so that is actually the second pin down, and then PWM 3 and 4, because we have a flying wing. So we go back to here. We got wing, left wing is, so that one there is our left wing, and that servo there is our right wing. So that's on PWM 4. Again, just using, my head's in the way slightly. There we go. Let me pick this up so you can see. Again, you can't see because that's all too tiny. So I'm just going to make that much bigger. Hope it focuses. There you go. So I've got those down at the bottom. So that one there is 3. That's the PWM 3, which is for our left wing, looking at the model from the reverse, from the rear. And PWM 4 is our right wing. Okay, and while this is actually staying in focus, I'll grab a pen. He says, so that top pin, servo wire's in the wrong way. The first pin at the top, it's not focusing now, great. The first set of pins at the top is for your SBUS. The white wire goes on the inside one, not the outside. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so the top set of pins, that is for SBUS in. The second one down is for your motor. We'll skip the third set of pins down because that's for motor 2, which is not what we want. The fourth set of pins down is PWM output number 3, which is for our left wing, and PWM output 4 is at the very bottom, and that's for our right wing. And that's it, believe it or not. Now, I'm not going to leave you on this note. I might slope saw in later this morning, so I'm going to go and take some photographs for you of the boards itself. Do go and have a read round iNav, and I want to reiterate, I've done this ad hoc live, and it's taken me an hour. It's taken me an hour to explain this to you. To set this up is really, really straightforward. And I sincerely hope that this guide has been and helps you, because there's been really, really very little info out there on the setup of them. And the thing is to keep in the back of your mind, we're talking $45 or less, you know. Like we mentioned, I've got the links in the video description. Use that code affiliate6, it'll give you 6% off as well. It's got the OSD built in. I haven't shown you which pins it is, because to be honest, it's V in and V out. In fact, let me just make my head smaller a second, because I've got the pictures here on the background. There you go. You just connect your video transmitter. So V in is your camera input, and my head's really small down here, isn't it? And I'm really making a right hash of that now. Let me move that out of the way. That's back to normal, isn't it? Yeah, V in and V out. Video in is your camera yellow lead. V out is the yellow lead, which then goes onto your video transmitter. Like we said back at the beginning, you want to also make sure they've got a common ground as well. And that's pretty much it. The thing is, and my biggest tip for you with iNav or any stabilizer software, make sure you've got pass-through mode enabled as the default, so you've got full control over your surfaces, is chuck your model up into the sky, get it flying around so it feels normal, okay? Again, then turn on stabilize mode, but keep your finger. So imagine that switch up there on my transmitter is the stabilizer. So in the moment it's in pass-through mode, we've got full control of the model. So we're off there flying it, it's flying fine, etc, etc. We've trimmed it in, blah, blah, blah. We then get some height on, okay? And we keep our finger on that switch. We click across, okay? Maybe whether that's just straightforward rate mode, or maybe it's horizon mode, okay? But you keep your finger on that switch. Learn from my mistakes on setting up models in the past. Keep your finger on the switch. Watch that model like a hawk. If it's starting to stabilize itself and it's nestled in, that's classed as happy days. Brilliant. You kind of like good to go, you know? But if your model spins or heads to the ground or goes for the moon, okay, click back. That's where you keep your finger on the switch, okay? So keep your finger on the switch, watch what the model does. You click into a stabilized mode, whether that be angle, horizon, or rate. All 3D, I hasten to add. Keep your finger on the switch, because if your model spins in front of you or goes straight for the ground or goes to the moon, you can click it back very, very quickly. Make sure you've got plenty of height on, okay? If it does any of those things, you've got your servo outputs incorrectly configured, like I said, and that's a topic for a different day, which I can't show you how to set up right now, because, like I said, right now it's 10 past 8 in the morning. I'm going out slope sawing for about 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning, so I sincerely hope that this has been able to help you. $45, okay, for an OSD screen, which you can configure, stabilization, return to home, the other features which I haven't mentioned, okay? Going back to the beginning, it's not an eagle tree vector, but on the flip side, it didn't cost me 175 quid. Instead, it cost me $45, or actually quite a bit less. Again, you can save money off, just look around for discount codes, etc, etc. But super cheap components. Mount your board in there straight, make sure your model's moving the right way round. Use it at your own risk, obviously. This is what I'm setting up to go in my own models. I will include some photographs much later on today, because like I said, I'm going out flying this morning. And also, this episode has been recorded ad hoc. I needed to do this as a live episode, otherwise I would have just never got around to it. And obviously, if you've been here on live, as you can see that there's some chat going on above my head, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about iNav, you're more than welcome to ask them in the comment section underneath this video. But do know, and I'm going to make a big point on this one, the best place for a resource for questions or things you're stuck on is typically the iNav wiki itself. Do make sure you go and read that and know what's going on. But at the end of the day, $45. I am super interested in this, and I sincerely hope everything works better this time around than when I originally tested it. And again, we've got OSD built in these boards now. I wouldn't have dreamed that that was going to be out like 6-7 months ago, and it's now a reality, and it's built into iNav. Absolutely fantastic. And Henry said, sorry, I'm just moving to onto the chat. $45 and small, absolutely. Aussie FPV says, would it be okay on the S800 Sky Shadow? Yes, because it would bloody well fit. That's a very, the S800, the Repsol S800 Sky Shadow has got a very small compartment, which a big chunk of the front of it is actually taken up by the battery. Then you've got the section on there. Yeah, it would definitely fit in there. Just make sure you set the board in there nice and level, or technically it needs to be level with your flight position, but I'm trying to numb this down without going into too much detail. So yes, it would be a perfect fit for that. That's for sure. Henry says, and Paul, hello from Norway, howdy. Hello from Bristolia here in the United Kingdom of sunny and hopefully windiness, because it's a slope day. Henry says, can iNav slope? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to let you into a little secret. A FlyingWing Z84. That was an absolute horrific model on the slope. I stuck a stabilizer in it, and it turned it into an absolute kitten. Very enjoyable. So yeah, totally be fine on the slope. Now, obviously, if I have been amiss any of your questions, I do apologise. Like I said, I've tried to focus on just covering the basics. I will include some photographs later on today of my setup so you can see what's going on here. Do read the manual, okay? The iNav site. I'm going to reiterate, $45 I feel is fantastic value for money for all the features which you get included, and fingers crossed everything goes to plan. I will keep you updated as things happen on this YouTube channel. So if this is your first time here, well done, number one, because you've been here for an hour. Number two, thank you. If you'd like to stay up, if you'd like to be informed when the next update is coming out for iNav, underneath this video, press the subscribe button. My name's Matt, by the way, so where it says red button subscribe, it says Matthew Ogborn. Hit the button, hit the bell icon if you want to get notified the moment the next time an episode's out. And with that said, I'm off slope soaring. So I will get some photos out for this one later today. And on that note, it's time for me to go. Thank you very much for joining me here today. By the way, if you want to join 800, literally 800 plus cool pilots like me and you, there's a Facebook group. I'll put a link to that in the video description for you. It's called Rag the Nuts Off. And we generally do rag the nuts off stuff. So on that note, from myself, Matt, thank you very much for joining. I'm off now. Have a great day. Cheerios.